Welcome everybody, welcome councillors, our Chief Executive Officer, General Managers, as well as our executive staff, and welcome back those that are in the gallery here today, as well as those joining us via live stream to this ordinary meeting of Council. There is no apologies for today's meeting. It's great to see everybody in attendance. But first of all, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we meet today, also the elders past, present and emerging. We also, as a community and as the council, acknowledge those Australians that have given the ultimate sacrifice in service of this country, as well as their families. The minutes are first, so the first item of business is item B1, it's a confirmation of the minutes. I now move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held on the 27th of October 2020 be taken as read. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder, Councillor Cooper. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. The next item of business is item C1. It's a declaration of conflicts of interest. And I now invite councillors to declare any conflicts of interest in any items to be discussed at today's meeting, and thank you for everyone following the new regulations. I'll go to Councillor Trevor first.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to issue under Section 150E(q) of the Local Government Act 2009. I wish to inform the meeting that I have a declarable conflict of interest. In item K3, firstly, the nature of the conflict of interest is that my wife and I own shares in Untitled Chapter Limited. They discussed as part of that report. I will be declaring that interest here today, and I will be leaving the room and not voting on the matter.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. As Councillor Trevor has identified his type of conflict and that he will be leaving the room, there is no need to vote in relation to this matter. Councillor Trevor, I believe you have another item.
Yes, pursuant to Section 150E(q) of the Local Government Act 2009, I wish to inform the meeting that I have a declarable conflict of interest in item K4. Item K4 was numbered K3 at the meeting the other day, and I declared a conflict of interest in that matter. As said, once again, my wife and I own shares in Untitled Chapter Limited, and it is mentioned in that report. Once again, I will be declaring an interest in K4, and having stated that I'm going to leave the room and not vote on the matter.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. As Councillor Trevor has identified the conflict in relation to this matter and has chosen to leave the room, there is no matter to vote on the matter. The next conflict, Councillor Wayne Honour. I've got a number here, Wayne, the first one being H1.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, pursuant to Section 150E(q) of the Local Government Act 2009, I wish to inform the meeting that I have a declarable conflict of interest in the matter H1, the Active Transport Strategy. As the author of this report is my son, Wayne Honour, who in professional wrote that matter to council. Having disclosed my declarable conflict of interest, I believe that I can participate in the decision on the matter.
Get him in the next one.
Interest and intend to remain in the meeting.
Thank you, Councillor. Before going on, just to make sure your microphone's not on mute, just want to even tap it on the top or something. I know we can hear you loud and clear, but just for... Yep, sounds as though it's on. Thank you, Councillor Honour. So as Councillor Honour has identified the way that he's going forward, pursuant to Section 150EQ of the Act, Council has been informed of a declared conflict of interest, and Councillor Honour has stated that he believes that he can participate and vote on the matter. The other councillors must now decide whether Councillor Honour may participate in the decision about the matter, including voting on the matter, or must leave the meeting and stay away from the eligible councillors whilst they discuss and vote on the matter. So can I please have a show of hands for those councillors who determine that Councillor Honour may participate in the meeting, including voting on the matter? So now that the matter is being passed unanimously, Council decided that Councillor Honour is able to stay in the meeting and vote on the matter. So thank you very much, Councillor Honour. The next item, Councillor Honour, in relation to conflicts is item K1.
Yes, Mr Mayor, pursuant to section 150EQ of the Local Government Act 2009, I wish to inform the meeting that I have a declarable conflict of interest in the matter K1, Coach Trail Investments, which is a company that I am the director of, Pty Limited, has an MCU that is not completed, and regarding in regard to these works, I wish to vacate the room on this matter when it is discussed and voted on.
Thank you, Councillor Honour. As Councillor Honour has identified conflict and will be vacating the room, there is no need to vote on the matter. Next item for Councillor Honour is item K4, I believe.
Yes, Mr Mayor. Pursuant to section 150EQ of the Local Government Act 2009, I wish to inform the meeting that I have a declarable conflict of interest regarding K4 in relation to the agricultural buffers. I'm a primary producer and have possible land neighbouring my land that could be subdivided under the current planning scheme, and due to that I wish to vacate the meeting and not be involved in the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Honour. So as Councillor Honour again has identified the conflict in relation to item be mentioned and has chosen to leave the room, there's no reason to vote on that particular matter. The next item is item T4, Councillor Honour.
Yes, Mr Mayor, pursuant to section 150EQ of the Local Government Act 2009, I wish to inform the meeting that I have a declarable conflict of interest in regard to the matter T4. The nature of the declarable interest is that I have an uncompleted MCU under Open for Development, Coach Trail Investments Pty Limited, and as regard to that, I wish to vacate the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Thank you, Councillor Honour. As Councillor Honour in relation to item T4 has identified a conflict of interest and chosen to leave the room in relation to this matter, there is no need to vote on that matter. The next item is item 06. I call Councillor McPhee.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Pursuant to section 150EQ of the Local Government Act 2009, I would like to inform the meeting that I have a declarable conflict of interest in item 06. The nature of the conflict of interest is my business Aloysius Delicious holds a peppercorn lease over the refectory at CQU. As this item doesn't relate to my lease or the outcome will have any bearing on my lease, I do believe that in the best interest of the public I can participate and vote on the matter.
Thank you, Councillor McPhee. So as Councillor McPhee has chosen to stay in the room, I now go as far as pursuant to section 15EQ of the Act. Council has been informed of the declaration conflict of interest, and Councillor McPhee has stated that she believes that she can participate and vote on the matter. The other councillors must now decide whether Councillor McPhee may participate in the decision about the matter, including voting on the matter, or must leave the meeting and stay away, which the eligible councillors, while the eligible councillors discuss and vote on the matter. So can I have a please show of hands for those councillors who determine that Councillor McPhee may stay in the meeting, including voting on the matter?
Excuse me, Mr Mayor, is that K3 that you...
No, that's 06.
06, okay, thank you.
Clarification? Yeah, so I'll just put the matter to the vote after that clarification. So can I please have a show of hands those councillors determine that Councillor McPhee may participate in the meeting, including voting on the matter? Thank you. The council has determined that Councillor McPhee is able to stay and vote on the matter unanimously. Thank you. The next item is item 04 or 04. Councillor Mitchell.
Pursuant to Section 150EQ of the Local Government Act 2009, I wish to inform the meeting that I have a declarable conflict of interest over matter 04, which is a lease on lot 35 on SP 254546 in the name of Mooney and Hetherington. The nature of the declarable conflict of interest is that Paul Mooney is a friend, and his interest in the matter is that he wishes to enter into a lease with council. As a result of my declarable conflict of interest, I do intend to leave the room while the matter is voted on.
So, as Councillor Mitchell has informed us of her type of conflict and that has chosen to leave the room, there is no need for that matter to be voted on. Now, just before continuing with the normal parts of business, I know we have regulations that write in so many days before identifying conflicts, but if there's anything that has come to any councillors' minds in relation to any possible conflicts, please bring that forward. Is there any other conflicts or in relation to the meeting of what we have before us? No? Very good. So the next three items are in the organisational services section. It's item F1, this is a financial summary as the 2nd of November 2020. I call Councillor Cooper.
Good morning, Mr Mayor, and thank you and welcome to everyone again this morning, particularly having the gallery back again. Recommendation that the financial summary as at the 2nd of November 2020 be noted by the Council.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Can I have a seconder, please? Second is Councillor Haberman. Councillor Cooper wishes to speak further in relation to the motion.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In accordance with Section 204 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, a financial report must be presented to the Council on a monthly basis. The attached financial report contains the financial summary and associated commentary as at the 2nd of November 2020.
Thanks, Councillor Cooper. Any other councillors wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? No. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. Next item of business is item G1. I call Councillor Cooper.
Thanks again, Mr Mayor. The recommendation that 1. Council apply the exemption contained in Section 236 in brackets 1 in brackets A in brackets I of the Local Government Regulation 2020 brackets Queensland to the disposal of Lot 8, Lot 12, Lot 15, Lot 39 and Lot 43 on SP 205671 and 2. The Chief Executive Officer be authorised to enter into a contract of sale with the buyer for each of the lots and attend to all required to finalise the sale of the properties.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder is Councillor McPhee. Councillor Cooper wishes to speak further in relation to the motion.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Council is the freehold owner of lots 8, 12, 15 and 39 on lot 40 and lot 43 on SP 205671 at Kincuna Waters Estate, Woodgate. Council has previously resolved to sell the lots as they are surplus to Council's need. The lots we previously offered for sale by auction, at which the auction was not successful, and the lots were passed in. The offer to purchase the lots are separate buyers and for market value.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Is any other councillor wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? No. All those in favour? Those against? No. So moved. Next item of business is item G2. I call Councillor Cooper.
Yes, the recommendation, Mr Mayor, is the Council, 1, Council apply the exception contained in Section 236 in brackets 1, in brackets A, in brackets I of the Local Government Regulation 2012 in brackets Queensland for the disposal of lots 19 and lots 21 on SP 210113 and 2. The Chief Executive Officer be authorised to enter into a contract of sale with the buyers and to attend to all items required to finalise the sale of the properties.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder is Councillor Honour. Councillor Cooper, you wish to speak further in relation to the motion?
Yes, the background is, Mr Mayor, Council is the freehold owner of Lot 19 and Lot 21 on SP 210113 at Heritage Oaks Estate, Childers lots. in brackets lots. Council has previously resolved to sell the lots as they are surplus to Council's needs. The lots were previously offered for sale by auction, at which the auction was not successful, and the lots were passed in. Council has received an offer to purchase the lots from an individual buyer through A1 Realty Wide Bay, Burnett. The offer to purchase the lots presented to Council are at market value.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Any other councillor wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? No. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. The next item is in the infrastructure section, item H1, the active transport strategy. I'll call Councillor Trevor.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I'd move that Council adopt the Active Transport Strategy 2020-25 document.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. Can I have a seconder, please? The second is Councillor Mitchell. Councillor Trevor used to speak further in relation to the motion.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The background to this is that in 2010, Council engaged a consultant to consolidate the pathway strategies of Bundaberg City and Burnett Shire councils. The aim of this document was to develop a pathway hierarchy classification based on linked functions and categorise the proposed pathway network. 2, to develop pathway construction standards. 3, to develop a methodology to prioritise pathway projects. And 4, provide a base for development of an integrated structured pathway network. In 2012, Council adopted the multimodal pathway strategy for use as a planning document for the pathway infrastructure in the Bundaberg region. This document was used to deliver pathway projects via day labour, crews or small quote packages through local concreters. During the 2014-15 financial year, Council's then Road and Drainage Department, in pursuit of cost savings, made the decision to bundle all pathway projects into one major contract. To manage the risk associated with delivering contracts of this size required specific skills and consistency of staff. This continuity of staff within the planning and delivery of pathways has resulted in a greater understanding of the issues associated with the pathway planning and limitations of the current multimodal strategy. In 2018, Mr Mayor, a review of the multimodal pathway strategy began providing an opportunity to apply the improved knowledge and learnings of the pathway and cycle infrastructure to address some of the limitations identified with the existing strategy. During the course of this review, it became apparent that a significant amount of changes were required to bring this document in line with the best practice for transport planning of pathways and cycleways. The biggest change identified, Mr Mayor, in pathway planning since the 2012 adoption of the multimodal strategy is the evolution from multimodal pathways to an active transport network. An active transport network, while providing the same transport-related outcomes of a multimodal network as identified above, also has a focus on health, social and environmental related outcomes. An active transport strategy aims to develop facilities that, 1, provide connectivity to the community for those who rely on public transport and non-motorised modes of transport to get around, create opportunity for people to integrate physical activity into their daily lives, and 3, improve the health and physical well-being of the community by encouraging promoting physical activity. The Active Transport Strategy 2020-25 document has been developed as a transition document, setting out an action plan on how we move into the current multimodal pathway strategy to a high standard and move from the current multimodal pathway strategy to a high standard and functional active transport network. This will improve the connectivity and amenity of the pathway network with a view to encouraging more people to get active and engage within the community. I also point out, Mr Mayor, to councillors that Council has been extremely active in the Pathway Network program over the past 4 years and in last year's budget as well, delivering for the people of Bundaberg Regional Council area.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. Does any other councillor wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? Councillor Barnes.
Thank you. Just a
Query?
just a question, Mr Mayor, perhaps through Councillor Trevor or the General Manager.
Yep.
Listen, I think this is a great initiative. I really do. I think it's fantastic. I just wonder, have we had any liaison with DTMR as to whether or not we dovetail into any of their projects at all, or whether in fact it's not really something that's going to affect them whatsoever?
We do, but I'm happy for others to
I can make comment on that.
Probably still
I do believe we have in the process, but also once this is adopted, there'll be further ongoing discussions with Queensland Transport, Main Roads, depending on funding available from different sources as well.
Yeah. And what I'll also do is I'll also defer as well to Stuart Randall, General Manager, because there has been extensive consultation. Yeah.
Yes, Mr Mayor. Importantly, we should consider that this strategy is a living, breathing document. It isn't a set and forget approach, so we will continue, as the Deputy Mayor said, to liaise with the Department of Transport and Main Roads to ensure that both our network planning and their network planning are hand in glove for the future.
Thank you, Stuart Randall, the General Manager. Councillor Barnes, anything further? No. So any other queries or questions or against the motion? No. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. Next items of business are in the planning section. Item K1. Before moving on to this item, Councillor Honour has declared a conflict of interest in the item and will be leaving the room. Thanks, Councillor Honour. So item K1 is the adoption of amendment to the Bundaberg Regional Council Planning Scheme Policy for Development Works, Uncompleted Works Bonds. So I now move the recommendation, as per on the screen here and before you on the notes, is that pursuant to the Planning Act 2016 and the Minister's Guidelines and Rules, Council A, adopt the proposed amendment to the Bundaberg Regional Council Planning Scheme Policy for Development Works as detailed in the attached report, and B, incorporate the amended version of the planning scheme policy for development works into the Bundaberg Regional Council planning scheme effective as of the 4th of December 2020. Can I have a seconder, please? Our seconder is Councillor Haberman. Does any other councillors wish to raise any queries or... Well, before going to there, is Mr CEO, would you like to make comment, read the recommendation?
Just very briefly, Mr Mayor, thank you. The purpose and the general effect of the proposed amendment is to clarify and provide improved guidance for bonding of development works, including requirements for uncompleted works bonds as security to enable early approval of a survey plan or early commencement of a use, and better guidance for other types of bonds, including performance bonds and maintenance bonds, currently addressed in the on-maintenance procedure section of the policy. Council advertised the proposed amendment and received no submissions. And the purpose of bringing that forward to the Council is really in response to what's happening locally in the development industry. As you've been aware, there's been a real spike in applications. At the moment, we have roughly about twice the number of applications in our system, development applications, that we had at the same time last year. So it's in response to that to try and provide, I guess, to expedite the approval process and to assist developers.
Thank you, CEO Steve Johnson. I'll now put any other councillor wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion. No, I'll now put the matter to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. I'll just ask for Councillor Honour to come back. Right, Councillor? Yep. So the next item is item K2, it's a proposed amendment to the Bundaberg Regional Council Planning Scheme 2015. I now move the recommendation that Part A, pursuant to the Planning Act 2016 and the Minister's Guidelines and Rules, Council decide to make an amendment to the Bundaberg Regional Council Planning Scheme, and B, the Chief Executive Officer be authorised to write to the actual Planning Minister to request an extension of temporary local planning instrument number 1 of 2019 as it relates to building heights at Bargara for a minimum of 12 months to allow sufficient time for the amendment to be prepared and adopted in accordance with the Minister's rules and guidelines. Can I have a seconder, please? The seconder is Councillor Cooper. I'll just, Mr CEO, I'd like to comment in relation to that.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just very briefly, councillors would be aware that a TLPI has been in place to control building heights at Bargara since May 2019. The Minister's TLPI has effect for 2 years, so it expires in May 2021. The purpose of this report and the recommendation is to allow the council to change its planning scheme to reflect the control mechanisms that are currently in the TLPI, bearing in mind that the word temporary is the important word here, that by enabling council to change the planning scheme, that gives, I guess, more certainty and more longevity to those controls. But in order to do that and go through the process that's specified in the Planning Act, council needs to contact the Minister's office to see if they'll agree to extend the TLPI so that we're not trying to rush that process through. Bearing in mind we've just had a state government election, a new planning minister, and it's highly unlikely that anything's going to happen before February, even with the government now in office.
Thank you, Mr CEO. I'll now ask, does any other councillors wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? No? All those in favour? Those against? Councillor Barnes, so noted. The matter is moved. The next item of business is item K3. It's a proposed minor amendment to the Bundaberg Regional Council Planning Scheme 2015. Councillor Trevor has declared a conflict of interest in this item and will be leaving the meeting.
deal with K4 at the same time. Mayor, I'll be in the room for both.
No worries at all. It's gone? Yeah. So item K3, I now move the recommendations that pursuant to the Planning Act 2016 and the Minister's Guidelines and Rules, Council A decide to make a minor amendment to the Bundaberg Regional Council Planning Scheme, Zone Maps ZM/8 and ZM/31 as at Schedule 2 of the planning scheme to add community facilities zone, basically a notion 14 utility installation to lots 2, 3 and 6 on W39500 and lot 2 on RP 14424 located at Goodwood Road and Browns Road, Childers, and B, decide to adopt the proposed minor amendments and incorporate the amended zone maps into the Bundaberg Regional Council Planning Scheme effective as of the 4th of December 2020. Can I have a seconder, please? Second is Councillor Honour. Mr CEO, you'd like to speak further in relation to this? It certainly has been a great effort by Council getting this together in such a short period of time.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. ISA Central Sugar Mill contacted Council staff about 2 to 3 weeks ago in relation to some planned changes in the way in which cane loading was going to occur in Childers. The land is currently included in a community facility zone under Council's planning scheme, and given the range of uses covered by the zone Council zoning maps, we believe need to be changed to facilitate that change. The use of a land for a cane railway and associated loading and unloading facility is probably not compatible with that zoning. So the purpose of this minor amendment is to facilitate those changed arrangements that the mill wants to put in place at the Childers cane line, and the amendment will also remove the need for any application or assessment against the relevant assessment benchmarks in the planning scheme.
Thanks, Mr CEO. Any other councillors wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? No, I'll put the matter to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. The next item of business is item K4. I acknowledge Councillor Trevor and Councillor Honour declared a conflict of interest in this item and will leave the meeting. Thanks, Councillor Honour. Yeah, item K4 is from the planning scheme policy for agricultural buffers. I now move the recommendation, again as seen on the screen and before us, that pursuant to the Planning Act 2016 and the Minister's Guidelines and Rules, Council A adopt a planning scheme policy for agricultural buffers incorporating changes as a consequence of submissions made through public consultation, noting that the changes have not resulted in the policy being sufficiently different to the version released for public consultation, and B, make an administrative amendment to Part 1, Table 1.2.5 Planning Scheme Policy for the planning scheme to reflect the adoption of the planning scheme policy for agricultural buffers, and C, incorporate the policy into the Bundaberg Regional Council's planning scheme effective as of the 4th of December 2020. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder is Councillor Bartels. There's any other, before asking any councils, Mr CEO, I'll ask you to give us some details in relation to this particular matter.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The new policy seeks to provide guidance for the design, construction and ongoing maintenance of agricultural buffers to minimise potential conflicts between agricultural operations and sensitive land uses, for example, residential and urban development. It informs the design of new residential development proposed adjacent to agricultural land uses to limit impact on lawful agricultural operations, and it provides appropriate design considerations and maintenance advice to ensure buffers are effective in mitigating off-farm impacts adjacent to sensitive land uses. And it supports applicants in satisfying the requirements of the planning scheme and to assist development assessment officers in their assessment of new development applications that require agricultural buffers. Importantly, we went through quite extensive public consultation. We received 8 properly made submissions, but I think it's also worth noting that council staff during that period presented to the ISIS cane growers on the 23rd of September and also to the Managing Director of the Bundaberg Fruit and Vegetable Growers on the 29th of September, and sent out reminder emails to all local development industry and agricultural sector representative groups to make sure that everyone was fully aware of what the proposed policy was intended to do and to seek submissions as to their thoughts or views on that policy.
Thanks, Mr CEO. I just also want to comment by way to say a big thank you to staff for the consultation and the time frames that were taken to have this recommendation before us. I'll just ask, does any other councillors wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? No? All those in favour? Those against? So moved. I'll just get Councillor Trevor and Councillor Honour back into the room. Thanks, Councillor Honour. Thanks, Councillor Trevor. The next item is item K5. It's a material change of use for mixed-use development in Burnett Harbour Marine Village in relation to the office, the shop, food and drink outlets, indoor sport and recreation, short-term accommodation and multiple dwellings at 6-7 Harbour Esplanade Burnett Heads. The recommendations basically put forward is that I now move that the development application 255.2018.89.1 detailed within the report and also be decided as per the recommendations. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder is Councillor Honour or Councillor McLaughlin. Do I have any other council? Well, before I do that, I'll call Councillor, Mr CEO, who'd like to speak on this. This is a very exciting project, and there is a number of conditions in relation to this particular project, but for the finer details, I'll move to you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I might take some time just to highlight what this application is intending to do. The applicant seeks to create a landmark development for the Bundaberg region, incorporating a master planned harbour village precinct with retail, office, club, cafe, recreation, short and long-term accommodation uses in a marina setting. The applicant contends that these activities will occur in attractive, architecturally designed buildings that range in height from single level to 5 levels. The proposal can be summarised as follows. the creation of a commercial centre located adjacent to the existing public parking area, boat ramp and jetty, and it comprises a compact grouping of single, 2 and 3-storey buildings sited along the water's edge. Activities proposed in this cluster include a ground floor convenience store, chandlery, fashion, gift, souvenirs, etc., real estate, cafe, bakery and administration, and then a gymnasium, spa, retail and restaurant in the third building. 3 apartment buildings are distributed along the waterfront to the east of the commercial centre. These are 4 and 5 level residential buildings available for both permanent occupation and short-term accommodation. The buildings are angled in plan shape and offset from each other to create an interesting and sinuous built edge. All apartment buildings have underground car parking. And a foreshore promenade footpath extends for the full harbour frontage of the development site. Public pathways connect Harbour Esplanade to the promenade, and the plans identified as road access subject to future DNR ME approval in relation to vehicle access to the road that serves the public boat ramp, jetty and parking area. Whilst use of this road in association with public recreation facilities is understood to be acceptable under the recreation reserve status, use of the road in association with a commercial development is understood to be unacceptable. Vehicle access from the development site to this road is therefore contingent upon the developer, the Council, Gladstone Ports Corporation and the Department of Natural Resources, Mines and Energy agreeing to change part of the recreation reserve to a road reserve. And as I said, quite extensive, as the Mayor said, quite extensive conditions attached to that proposed approval. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Does any other councillor wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? No. I'll now put the matter to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. The next 6 items are in the Community and Cultural Services section. The first item being 01. I call Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The recommendation that 1, Council apply an exemption contained in section 236 in brackets 1, bracket C in brackets 3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Queensland, and 2, the Chief Executive Officer be authorised to enter into a 5-year lease with a 5-year option to Jorg Hobby and Gita Hobby for aviation hangar site CN located on lot 35 on SP 254546 on the Bundaberg Regional Airport.
Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder, Councillor McPhee. Councillor Cooper, you speak further in relation to the matter?
No, I think it's self-explanatory.
Thanks, Councillor Cooper. Any other councillor wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? No. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. Next item is 02, another lease before us today. I call Councillor Cooper.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. That Council apply the exception contained in section 236 in brackets 1 in brackets C, brackets 3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 in brackets Queensland, and 2, the Chief Executive Officer be authorised to enter into a 5-year lease with a 5-year option to Costi Group Proprietary Limited as trustees for P&K Costi Superannuation Fund for Aviation Hangar Site AE located at lot 35 on SP 254546 at Bundaberg Regional Airport.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Could I have a seconder, please? Second is Councillor Trevor. Councillor Cooper, do you need to speak further in relation to the matter? No. Any other councillor wish to raise any queries or speak against this motion? No. I'll now put the matter to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? No. So moved. The next item is item 03. I call Councillor Cooper.
Thanks again. The recommendation that 1, Council apply exception is contained in section 236 in brackets 1, in brackets C, in brackets 3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, in brackets Queensland, and 2, the Chief Executive Officer be authorised to enter into a 5-year lease with a 5-year option to Corp Super Co Proprietary Limited ACN 161024460 as trustees for the aviation hangar site CB located on lot 35 on SP 254546 at Bundaberg Regional Airport.
Could I have a seconder, please? The seconder is Councillor McPhee. Councillor Cooper, speak any further? No. Any councillor wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? No. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. Next item is 04. Councillor Mitchell has declared a conflict of interest in the item. Will leave the meeting. Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. The item is 04 to lease arrangement. I call Councillor Cooper.
Yeah, the recommendation is that 1, council apply exception contained in section 236 in brackets 1 in brackets C brackets 3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 in brackets Queensland, and 2, that the Chief Executive Officer be authorised to enter into a 5-year lease with a 5-year option to Paul Mooney and Loretta Hetherington for aviation hangar site AC located at lot 35 on SP 254546 at Bundaberg Regional Airport.
Thanks, Councillor Cooper. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder is Councillor Bartels. Councillor Cooper, speak further in relation to the motion. In that matter, then I'll ask any other councillors wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion. No. I'll now put the matter to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. I'll wait Councillor Mitchell to return. Thanks, Councillor Mitchell. The next item is 05. It's another lease matter. I call Councillor Cooper.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. The recommendation is that 1, council rescind the resolution made in relation to item T1, lease of part of 160 Hughes Road, Bargara, in brackets lot 11 on RP 7268 and the brackets Bargara Administration Building on 5th of August 2020 at its ordinary meeting. 2, council apply the exception contained in the section 236 in brackets 1 and brackets E of the Local Government Regulation 2012 in brackets Queensland, and 2, the Chief Executive Officer be authorised to enter into a lease for a 1-year and with a 2-year plus 1-year option to Millbank Investments Trust for part of the Bargara Administration Centre known as Lot 2 on SP 314446.
Thanks, Councillor Cooper. Can I have a seconder, please? The second is Councillor Barnes. Councillor Cooper used to speak further in relation to the motion.
It's all on the board.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Any other councillor wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? No. I'll now put the matter to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. The next item is item 06 in relation to a sole supplier in relation to the collaborative Regions Project, Regional Arts Development Fund. I note Councillor McPhee has identified a possible conflict. It's been voted on by councillors and Councillor McPhee staying in the room. I'll now go to Councillor Learmont.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The recommendation is that the Council award the $32,540 Collaborative Regions contract to Central Queensland University to provide extended regional arts services as a sole supplier in accordance with Section 235A of the Local Government Regulation 2012 in Queensland.
Thanks, Councillor Learmont. Second is Councillor Haberman. Councillor Learmont to speak further in relation to the motion.
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Yeah.
The Central Queensland Regional Arts Service Network has been funded by the State Government through the Arts Queensland as a 4-year program, with the current contract finishing on the 30th of June. Different to what's up there, it's the 31st. So, this program funds a Regional Arts Development Officer for 2 days per week to support the projects across 6 local governments. A steering committee, which currently sits as an advisory committee to the Wide Bay Burnett Regional Organisation of Councils, meets regularly to provide advice, support and guidance as to how this program operates in our region. Through the steering advisory committee process, it was agreed that the current 2 days per week is only providing support to projects funded through the Central Queensland RASN, and is not having enough of a broader impact on the arts sector of our regions. As a result, 3 local governments in the Wide Bay Burnett section, a region, Fraser Coast Region Council, South Burnett Regional Council and the Bundaberg Regional Council, agreed to make a joint submission to the Regional Arts Development Fund, also supported through Arts Queensland, to co-invest in increasing the capacity of this program to ensure the officer is working at full-time capacity until the 30th of June 2021 to support industry recovery programs. This project has now been approved for all three partners through the RADF funding agreements supplied by Arts Queensland. The work plan has been agreed by all parties. Funding is determined through the same membership formula agreed through WebRock. There is a sound precedent for this formula, which is based on a per capita basis already agreed by the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lim. Anyway, councillors wish to raise any queries? Councillor McPhee?
Not a query, but I just think it's worth noting that council's only funding half that 50% and the state's paying for the other 50% of that 32,000.
Thanks, Councillor McPhee. Any other councillors wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? No. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. The next four items are confidential in nature pursuant to section 254J of the Local Government Regulation 2012. These are items T1 to T4. So I now move that the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to section 254J of the Local Government Regulation 2012 to discuss the confidential items. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder, Councillor Barnes. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. We'll now suspend the live stream while the confidential items are discussed and the gallery vacates, and we will be back again shortly.
Mr. Mayor, just a reminder.
Oh, you got one before.
Really? I missed it.
Yeah.
It might have been while I was out of the room.
Yeah.
We're live again, councillors.
No. Yep.
So we're back in a meeting.
So we're,
to vote on that?
Thank you, Councillor Honour, returning. We're now out of confidential. I'll just wait for people to return. Anyone else? No, all good. So returning to the meeting and back onto live stream, and thank you those in the gallery that have returned also. Item T1 is request of waiver of waste collection charges. I now move the recommendation that Council provide a further reduction of $2,000 to waste collection charges to the property known as Lot 2 RP 847117. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder, Councillor Haberman. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. Next item is item T2. It's land sale for recovery rate arrears, and I now move the recommendations as per before us and on the screen. The recommendation, point 1, is that pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 4, Part 12, Division 3 of the Local Government Regulations 2012, Council commence sale action for recovery of outstanding rates against registered owners of the following properties on which rates have remained unpaid for 3 years or more. The lot numbers and their descriptions are per the report and as appears on the screen before us as well. And point 2, that Council delegates to the Chief Executive Officer its power to take all further steps under Chapter 4, Part 12, Division 3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 to effect the sales of land, including the power to end sale procedures in terms of Section 141 brackets 3 of the Local Government Regulations 2012. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder is Councillor Barnes. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. Next item is item T3. It's a request of waiver of sewerage charges. I now move the recommendation that in view of the circumstances outlined in the request to refund sewerage charges, a refund of $4,250 be provided to the owner of land described as Lot 33 RP 24800. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder, Councillor Trevor. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. Next item is item 4. I understand Councillor Honour, as he's declared a conflict, will be leaving the meeting room. We'll wait for him to vacate. Item T4 is a request to vary terms of the Bundaberg Open Development Infrastructure Agreement. I now move the recommendations that A, planning basically, what does it say there? Planning initiatives on behalf of Prime Projects Propriety Limited and Janam Propriety Limited be advised that Bundaberg Regional Council does not agree to vary the maximum discount amount of $1 million for DA 526.2018.68.1 under the current draft Bundaberg Open for Development 2016 Infrastructure Agreement, and B, request to amend the draft infrastructure arrangement to confirm that the footpath in Santa Lucia Boulevard need only be constructed to the standard required in the conditions of approval if the option to build it to trunk standard is not exercised be agreed to, and C, the request to change the date of substantial commencement of the development in the draft IA to 31 or 31 of July 2021 be agreed to. Can I have a seconder, please? The seconder is Councillor McPhee. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. I'll just get Councillor Honour to return to the room. Thanks, Councillor Honour. This brings to conclusion the business of today's meeting. Next ordinary meeting is due to be held on the 15th of December 2020 in the Council Chambers back here in Bundaberg. I now close the meeting at, what time we got there, 11:04. Councillor McPhee, what you got?
03.
Yep, is 11:03. And I thank you for your attendance here today. And I also just want to thank the staff in such a short notice for getting this room to the standards required for COVID and its requirements. I notice there is, as we say, from community, a number of questions in relation to the consistency in relation to, you know, we've had other things from churches to council to community events and so forth, and the impact that they're having on the community. And certainly we've seen the news that the borders will be between Queensland and New South Wales will be opening up, as the 1st of December? 1st of December. So certainly it is a moving feast, and we still are under, you know, a pandemic and state disaster recommendations. So I thank everyone for their patience, and particularly as we head into what is, and we are currently under our normal storm season, where we, you know, we prepare and make sure that we get everything in order for our normal weather patterns, and whichever way they affect us. And I think as a region, we really want more to have some rain. Rain was certainly would bring a lot of joy, both socially and economically, to our community. And I think we're getting closer, and we just hope that these we get a little drop, you know, in the days forward. Anyway, that closes our meeting, and I thank you for your attendance. Thank those in the gallery that have attended here today as well, and those live on stream. Thank you.